In the headlines of this hour on VTV News, Vietnam's economy remains resilient in 2023. And later on, Vietnam to speed up social housing projects. In our world news, container shipping rates spike after Red Sea ship attacks.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Didin Lê with the latest updates. Now, State President Võ Văn Thưởng, chairman of the National Defense and Security Council, on Thursday chaired the fourth meeting of the council in the 2021 to the 2026 term. At the meeting, the council commented on the results achieved in many fields of the country in recent times, especially in defense, security, and foreign affairs. On behalf of the council, State President Võ Văn Thưởng praised the military, police, and diplomatic forces for successfully implementing political tasks and achieving several important results in various fields, in which foreign affairs were the highlights. The state president asked relevant forces and agencies to promote the achieved results and effectively implement different policies. The council's members also discussed the achievements in national defense and security, and foreign affairs, and the world situation and its impacts on Vietnam, as well as tasks for 2024. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính on Thursday issued Directive 01 on increasing savings in state budget expenditure. The directive states to meet management requirements, save costs, strictly implement the party's guidelines and policies. The Prime Minister requested ministries, branches, and localities to focus on implementing key tasks. The Ministry of Finance presides over reviewing, evaluating, researching, and proposing to competent authorities to amend the laws on state budget, thrift practices, and anti-waste and other related laws and legal documents. The Prime Minister also requested to strengthen inspection, examination, supervision, and public implementation of the use of state budget. National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ on Thursday had a meeting with Vice President of the Lao Legislature, Chaliun Phie, who is on a working visit to Vietnam. More in the following.
Vietnamese National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ warmly welcomed Chaliun Phie, Vice President of the Lao Legislature, to Vietnamese National Assembly for a visit at the start of the new year. The Vietnamese National Assembly chairman emphasized the strong relationship between the two parties, countries, and nations. The top legislator also congratulated the Lao National Assembly on successfully leading the early December summit of the Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, or CLV National Assemblies. This event significantly bolsters the collaboration among these three countries' parliaments and in the wider region. The Vice President of the Lao Legislature expressed gratitude for the support of Vietnamese National Assembly in the successful CLV summit. He looked forward to exchange the experiences with Vietnam in improving legal system and compiling the 50-year history of the Lao National Assembly. Additionally, the chairman of the Vietnamese National Assembly assured that Vietnam would help Laos host two major events this year, including the ASEAN Summit and the ASEAN Inter-Parliamentary Assembly, or IPA. Previously, at the meeting between Vice President of the Lao Legislature and Vice Chairman of the Vietnamese National Assembly, Nguyễn Khắc Định, the two sides agreed to regularly exchange high-level delegations, deepening cooperation between the two sides.
On Thursday, the Ring Road 4 construction investment project in the Hanoi capital region held a meeting with Bắc Ninh and Hưng Yên provinces to address challenges in the project's progress. So far, 94% of the land needed has been acquired. About 12,000 graves have been moved and new housing areas are being built. The local authorities discussed issues with clearing the remaining land and asked for better coordination in moving power and underground lines. To prevent construction delays due to material shortages, the Secretary of Hanoi's Party Committee, Đinh Tiến Dũng, who is also head of the project, stated that Hanoi would immediately look into using nearby mine sites shared with Hưng Yên and Bắc Ninh provinces. He also emphasized the need to keep a close watch on these mine sites to prevent any loss of resources. Amid global economic uncertainties and difficulties, Vietnam's economy maintained positive growth momentum in 2023. The country's GDP increased by 5.05% compared to 2022. That is a remarkable result for such an open economy like Vietnam. A stable macroeconomy is an important foundation, creating momentum for economic growth in 2024.
Rice exports reached more than $4.8 billion in 2023. Both export volume and value increased.
Rice prices have increased. We hope with such high prices, we will earn way more this year.
Agricultural, forestry and fishery production continued to be a strong pillar of the economy last year. Despite difficulties, industrial production experienced a positive trend. Trade, consumption and tourism activities also recovered. The service sector was the biggest contributor with over 62% to the country's total added value.
Trade performance improved during the second half of the year. Second, authorities played an important role to boost public investment.
Vietnam continued to control average inflation well in 2023 with CPI increasing by 3.25% compared to 2022. A number of fiscal and monetary policies were implemented to remove difficulties for businesses and people, promote growth, maintain macroeconomic stability, control inflation, and ensure major economic balances.
The value-added tax was reduced from 10% to 8%. The environmental tax on gasoline was also halved. Other types of taxes and fees were also decreased.
2023 witnessed a record number of public transport projects with 26 projects in construction and 20 completed key national projects, creating new development space for 2024 and the following years.
The confidence of people as well as domestic and foreign businesses is an advantage for Vietnam that no other country has.
In 2023, realized foreign direct investment capital reached the highest level since 2019, with $23.18 billion, affirming the confidence of international investors in the business and investment environment in Vietnam.
In economic performance between those countries that have very strong internal demand, domestic demand versus those countries that are very export-oriented. So in the second bucket, I would put Vietnam, along with, let's say, Thailand and Malaysia.
According to Fitch Ratings, despite difficulties, Vietnam's economic growth will be positive in the medium term with a rate of about 7%.
Privately issued corporate bonds must be traded centrally at the Vietnam Securities Depository and Clearing Corporation. Bond issuers can negotiate to delay bond debt payments to bondholders. Such regulations of the Decree 08 of the government on offering and trading privately issued corporate bonds has contributed to easing capital flow and regaining investor confidence in the Vietnam's corporate bond market.
64 bond-issuing businesses were able to extend principal and interest payment terms to their investors with a total amount of about $4.6 billion. However, that doesn't mean businesses can delay paying their debts for too long.
Businesses need to find solutions to pay to investors before maturity instead of continuously delaying payouts on maturities. They should also pay compensation to investors for their payment delays.
Businesses, especially in the banking and real estate sectors, also promote the repurchase of bonds before maturity. By 2023, the total repurchased value reached nearly $9.8 billion. Since the end of last July, centralized corporate bond trading has been implemented with openness and transparency, easing capital flows in the market. It has also removed bottlenecks in issuing new corporate bonds. In 2023, over $11 billion of long-term capital from mainly professional investors was raised via the corporate bond channel.
Most of them have a maturity of at least 5 years, proving investor confidence in the corporate bond market.
Many of the bond issuances involved foreign investors. It shows investor confidence. It also helps businesses improve their financing capability and contributes to economic development.
Meanwhile, public-issued bonds accounts for about 10% of the total capital. Credit rating is a crucial factor to businesses.
Some enterprises are not required to be rated, but they still asked rating firms to rate their businesses and disclose the rating results to the public, ensuring transparency.
Over $12.3 billion of corporate bonds will mature in 2024. If bottlenecks are continuously removed, investor confidence will increase and help develop the market more healthily and effectively.
The Mekong Delta achieved good economic growth. In addition to the efforts of localities and businesses, this result was partly attributed to the improved regional transportation network. In particular, the expressways in the southwestern region have contributed to its socio-economic development.
Every day, this business transports 7 to 8 container trucks of rice for export. Previously, most of vehicles traveled to ports in Ho Chi Minh City and the southeast by road. Now it's more convenient thanks to the Ho Chi Minh City-Cần Thơ Expressway.
This helps us reduce 2 to 10% travel costs. Our logistics costs have also decreased.
This expressway has the highest traffic volume among the main roads of the country. The favorable transportation system has helped increase the competitiveness of many agricultural products of the Mekong Delta.
The condensed network of key transport routes has improved the attractiveness of Cần Thơ City in particular and the Mekong Delta region in general.
More industrial parks and clusters will be built in order to attract more investors, especially in high-tech and processing projects, in order to develop the agricultural sector further.
Improved transportation infrastructure also attracts domestic and foreign investors to the region. A number of industrial parks continue to be built along the expressways. The construction of 8 expressway projects is being taken in the Mekong Delta. By 2026, there will be about 554 kilometers of highways. The remaining expressways will be invested in the next phase to gradually complete the expressway network in the region.
Coming up next on VTV News. Vietnam to speed up social housing projects. And later on, ethnic people make efforts to eliminate harmful practices. Welcome back to VTV News Live. Now, in addition to solutions to resolve difficulties for the real estate market, the National Assembly approved the housing law and the real estate business law at the 6th session of the 15th National Assembly last year. This move has paved the way for investors to develop housing projects that meet growing consumer demand. However, as the housing law comes into the effect in 2025, access to affordable social housing for low-income people is still facing many obstacles.
In order to buy a social housing apartment, people in need have to show proof that they do not own a house and that they are not subject to personal income tax. However, procedures to get personal background verification remains complicated and time-consuming.
In order to get proof of income documents, I need to request a verification of employment letter from my current employer.
This is one of 10 social housing projects that has been carried out in Vietnam in 2023. Although investors got a preferential loan of nearly $5 billion, it took them 1 year to deal with administrative procedures and obtain permissions to implement the project.
To use the nearly $5 billion loan package effectively, investors need to prepare construction sites for their social housing projects. Site clearance should be carried out before bidding process to select good investors. This is the fastest way to develop social housing projects.
Construction companies should remain vigilant until the real estate market recovers. They need to prepare for all scenarios. As the government aims to complete the construction of 1 million social housing projects, localities should prepare land sources and map out detailed plans for these construction sites.
In 2023, the government ordered all localities to resolve difficulties and facilitate the operations of construction companies. So far, 52 social housing projects have been approved to be carried out and are eligible for some of the funds in the nearly $5 billion loan package.
The People's Committee of Bingzhou Province announced on Thursday that the province will provide 46,500 gifts, each worth $41 from the budget, which is equivalent to $1.9 million for workers in particularly difficult circumstances who will stay in Bingzhou to celebrate Lunar New Year 2024. 8 gifts will be given to workers in the coming days. In addition, the trade unions at all levels in the province planned and estimated a budget of more than $14 million to organize activities to care for union members and workers on the occasion of Lunar New Year 2024, such as giving gifts to nearly 82,900 people. Hazang Province is home to 19 ethnic groups. Each of them has unique cultural traditions and customs. However, harmful practices and behaviors such as discrimination on the basis of gender and age have become culturally normalized in many localities. To eliminate harmful practices, many ethnic residents have initiated the implementation of a women's empowerment model.
Zhang Mili's family is one of poor households in Lungqing Commune. He has struggled to pay off his debts after he borrowed a large amount of money to hold a funeral.
Traditionally, when a family member dies, we must spend a lot of money for a large funeral. Now it's hard to pay off all of the debt.
Meanwhile, in Bang Lang Commune, members of Nguyễn Bảo Quang family undertook a women's empowerment model. They formed a club of daughters-in-law, which serves as a local women's union. The club aims to get rid of a social hierarchy in which men hold power over women.
We want to promote women's sense of self-worth and ability to determine their own choices. Fathers and husbands allow their wives and daughters to be involved in all activities of their family.
The club is a gathering place for all women to meet and chat with each other. We want to enhance the role of women with hope that they'll become a role model for their children.
As women that is empowered in the village, they are motivated to build a happy family life.
Both wives and husbands make big decisions in their family, such as building a new house, holding wedding parties for their children, or holding funerals. This model is the best way to eliminate harmful cultural practices.
The Club of Daughters-in-Law now has more than 70 members. Many of them have played an active role in social activities and contributed to stabilizing their family's income. So far, more than 20 clubs of daughters-in-law have been formed in Guangbin district, helping to empower women and promoting gender equality in ethnic communities.
Hoi An has been voted one of the top 7 trendiest destinations by the American travel site Travel Off Path. This site recognizes Hoi An as one of the best cities in Vietnam, renowned for its well-preserved old towns and its unique blend of cultures, ranging from Chinese to French. Other popular destinations that made it onto this list include Cuba, Mauritius, Siem Reap, Cambodia, Chiang Mai, Thailand, Grand Cayman in Cayman Islands, and Fez in Morocco. Located downstream of the Tu Bồn River, Ban Thạch village has been producing mats for over 500 years. Despite facing various challenges, the villagers have preserved the traditional method of weaving sedge mats, which gives Ban Thạch mats their distinctiveness.
In the past, in Ban Thạch village, each house had at least 2 mat weaving looms. Huỳnh Thị Ca,
now nearly 90 years old, is the oldest mat weaver in the village. Despite the challenging nature of this job and the low income it brings, she continues to pass on these traditions to her descendants.
This job is hard work. You have to chop the sedge, dry it, then dye and dry it again.
In the past, mats were transported to southern Vietnam for consumption and were even exported in large quantities to Eastern Europe. During the peak season, villagers would weave over 400,000 pairs of mats. Nowadays, many visitors still purchase mats as a souvenir to remember the past.
The smell of the mat evokes a range of emotions and brings to mind the image of villagers weaving mats in their houses.
Many engineers, contractors, and company directors have a background in weaving mats, thanks to their parents' tradition.
Currently, this craft village still has approximately 150 households engaged in manual mat weaving. The daily income of mat weavers is only around $4. Therefore, the cultural sector of Quảng Nam province and the local government are collaborating to develop a plan to preserve the craft village.
Coming up next in our world news. Container shipping rates spike after Red Sea ship attacks. And later on, newly released audio reveals about Japan plane crash. Moving on to our world news, ocean freight rates are surging after a missile attack and attempted hijacking of a Maersk ship last weekend prompted carriers to suspend plans to restart transits through the Red Sea. Rates for shipments from Asia to North America's east coast climbed 55% to $3,900 per 40-foot container. West Coast prices jumped 63% to more than $2,700 ahead of expected cargo divergence to avoid Red Sea-related issues. As of Wednesday, hundreds of container ships and other vessels have been rerouted around Africa's southern Cape of Good Hope to avoid the attacks. Egypt's Suez Canal connects the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and is the fastest way to ship fuel, food, and consumer goods from Asia and the Middle East to Europe. Regarding the jet crash in Japan, newly released transcript of communications prior to the crash suggests that the Coast Guard plane did not have permissions to be on the runway. Officials cleared the passenger jet to land and instructed the Coast Guard plane to hold on the runway prior to the planes colliding. On Tuesday, Coast Guard plane collided with a larger Japan Airlines passenger jet. Pilots on a Japan Airlines plane that became engulfed in flames just after all 379 passengers and crew escaped. All but one of the 6 people on the smaller aircraft were killed. The European Commission sees hydrogen as a cornerstone of its clean energy policy. In July 2020, the Commission proposed a strategy that aims to accelerate the development of green hydrogen from renewables so that it becomes part of the region's energy supply by 2050. Therefore, European countries are now investing in pipelines and infrastructure for transport and storage of hydrogen. Currently, hydrogen is being applied in several industries, including oil refining, chemicals, steel production, and transportation. Some countries use electricity produced from hydrogen fuel cells to power cars, buses, tracks, ships, and even airplanes. Particularly, hydrogen technologies have facilitated long-distance transport of heavy goods. Furthermore, hydrogen can be used in internal combustion engines. European leaders expect that in the future, hydrogen will be used for energy purposes in different applications in replacement of natural gas. Traditional methods of screening and detection, such as mammograms or biopsies, are effective but can expose individuals to radiation and cause discomfort. A team of scientists from Sheffield Hallam University has successfully developed a pioneering non-invasive method for detecting breast cancer from fingerprints with 98% accuracy. This method is expected to encourage more people to have regular screenings.
Can sweat from a woman's fingertip help detect breast cancer? Scientists at Sheffield Hallam University have developed a fingerprint test that offers a painless and non-invasive alternative to current mammograms. Professor Simona Francesa has been working in forensic science for almost 15 years, using fingerprints to help profile criminal suspects. But along the way, her research team realized that the same method could also be used to check for breast cancer.
Sweat contains a lot of different molecules, but what we're interested in is proteins. What we do, in effect, is detecting those proteins, and the different levels of expression of those proteins, the different patterns of expression, tell us whether a patient has a benign pathology or has early cancer or is metastatic. And we use artificial intelligence to make sense of those mass spectrometry data.
The principle of the experiment is that literally from the smear of a fingerprint, we can do some smart chemistry on that sample, and then we can interrogate the sample with the mass spectrometer, so with the approach that we have here, and that gives us a very complex picture of the underlying molecules which are present there. So we get a picture of the molecules.
In 2021, breast cancer overtook lung cancer as the most common form of the disease, accounting for nearly 12% of new cases every year worldwide. Traditional methods of screening and detection, such as mammograms or biopsies, are effective, but can expose individuals to radiation and cause discomfort. Francesa believes a non-invasive fingerprint test could someday replace the mammogram and encourage more people to have regular screenings.
And now let's have a look at the weather forecast. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.